Today we spent about 3 hours talking with the school board about priorities for the sales tax, which is going to bring about $44 million to the district over the next 10 years. So pretty clearly the number one priority is to finish the renovations at Senior High School so that Hempstead and Senior are pretty equitable in the spaces that they offer. Following that is looking at a potential elementary school on the Southwest Arterial. Will we see expansion of the city? That's a little further down the road. And of course, something that's always on our mind is air conditioning our spaces that aren't currently air conditioned. So those two, second aren't necessarily in order, and we may do a little, bit here and there, air conditioning, and then the elementary school. But clearly the number one priority is finishing Senior High School, which we kind of anticipated coming in to the meeting, and it's good to just get consensus around, especially with new board members.
And where do we expect, that project, when do we that start kicking off in terms of the planning process?
So the planning process, if all goes well, so we'll have to make that decision, and there's an opportunity for the community to weigh in, and then start working with the architects, but pretty quickly, maybe as early as at the end of February, beginning part of March, because there's a lot of planning, as you might imagine, that goes into it before we can actually start the put it to bid and start the actual work. So we want to start that as soon as we can.
And then, and in regard to the Southwest Arterial, have you all already determined a site?
No, not necessarily. We've had some different conversations with different entities, with the city, with other folks, just trying to figure out what is the best location for us and what's available.
And the district doesn't own any property on that.
We don't. The only property that we own that's not currently a school site is the soccer complex and the Valentine Park.
Okay. And then on the final thing, I guess a facility air conditioning replacement schedule, has that been worked out? Or?
No, not yet. So we did a study, I shouldn't say we, it predates me, probably 15 years ago. They looked at air conditioning and the cost for that. Now that's a little outdated because many of the spaces that was in that study are now air conditioned. Some of our elementaries have been air conditioned since that time, and some of the other spaces, the half of senior, part of some of our elementaries. And so we'll have to redo the study with the pieces that are left to see what's the total cost for that.
And when do you anticipate doing a study on that?
We'll start that right away as well. I mean, we will do a lot of these things simultaneously. So just looking at, and as technology changes, the geothermal, the solar, are there new opportunities, different opportunities to do air conditioning and do it in a sustainable way as well.
And is this an annual process where the board sets
We
its
do.
goals?
We do a work session once a year, sometimes more often, but usually about once a year. Okay. Especially when we have new board members, so give them a voice as to what we're going to do moving forward.